Hi, my friend. It's Pat Sloan here. I'm going to give you an update on my package. I'm going to talk about these little foundation papers again because I've messed around with them a bit more. And I'm going to show you my iris flowers that are out in my yard because they're gorgeous. Okay, so the package update. I talked to the FedEx. I got a person who did the tracking of the truck, and it was delivered via the tracking, which shows a coordinate that is where it should have been. But the package wasn't there, and many checks it wasn't there. So we're hoping that maybe a neighbor has it that's on vacation and will eventually bring it by. But I am moving on because I have to remake the quilt. Remember, I said it's not a very big quilt, but it's still going to take me a little while. I had to spend some time last night cutting up the fabric that I do have. I have to order some fabric. So I am moving on from that, but I wanted to give you an update that as far as it shows, it was delivered, and now there's just nothing we can do but wait to see if somebody has it at their house and brings it over. It was, because it shows it was delivered to the right place. Okay, so these little papers just intrigued me because I've always wanted to mess around with this block, and I think it's a fun one. So I want to show you a few things that I did, and just I haven't done a complete block, but I'm messing around with it. I just want to give you a few tips on what I'm doing. So first, I've got my Miss Raccoon there with the pink, and let me show you. Let's just come down here. So when I'm doing this, I put the two sides. You're going to do two sides, then you're going to do the other two sides. But what I do is trim away so that before I put this next side, I've got the excess fabric trimmed away. Because if I don't, if I were to put it here, like this, and then sew it out, what I've got is all this extra fabric. I would have a lot of extra fabric in that corner there because I didn't do a trim. So when I trim, I just take some scissors, or you could do your rotary cutter. You could pull the paper back and lay it and do the rotary cutter. But I just pull the paper back and I just trim it off like this. And so this triangle now will go into my rolling assistant back there with lots of little pieces. So now I can go ahead, and do these guys. But I also was messing around with another fabric, and I wanted to show you about creating the center and fussy cutting, because I have this fabric that has these horses on it that I've had for a little while, and the pattern tells you to cut. So there's a pattern right in the inside of the lid. Also, this shows you some different colorations, so you can get, I like that gray one. So it depends on where you put your fabrics, what kind of coloration you get. But anyways, it tells you to cut a 3-inch square, and you're going to actually position it on point. Well, my novelty print is not on point. So I just cut like a little bit bigger than a 3-inch square. But if I do that and just place it, place it this way, like square on, not on point. If I place it square like this, not on point, this square is just not quite big enough. The seams are like, I would have like less than 1/8 of an inch of seam. So double check that. If you are intending to cut it square and leave it even with the outside instead of on point, be sure you have a big enough piece of fabric. So, and also be sure that when you cut it, you actually have a cool image, because when I do this one, what will happen is this side will fold over, that side will fold over, this will fold over, and this will fold over. You get the idea there. But what happens is I end up with these cute little tulips in the middle, and like the top of a horse, his legs, his nose. I mean, that's really not what I'm going for. I want to have the horses in the middle. So in this case, when I put it on point, like the pattern says, and I made mine just a tiny bit bigger, then when I fold it, I am going to get this cute pink horse in the middle of my block. So you can kind of see there. So this horse will be in the block. And you could certainly fussy cut it to get it exactly in the middle, but I didn't do that. The other thing I thought was, well, why don't I do some of my strings things? You know, because basically I have this whole container of strings now. I do not even, here's my rolling cart. I mean, the top is, this is quite a bit for me. It's quite a bit. Considering I've just started sort of thinking about this. I do not know how those of you who keep tubs and tubs and tubs of this don't feel overwhelmed, but it must work for you. Or if you do feel overwhelmed, get a new system, because it is a lot to have all these little teeny pieces everywhere. Anyway, so I thought, why can't I use this foundation for the strips? So I started one with the horse. So I put, first of all, this dark pink, which is a really old piece of fabric that I got. It's actually Anna Marie Horner, and I believe it may have been from her first or possibly second fabric line. Why I remember this, I do not know. And then my Morrison Park fabric. But this will, you know, be a fun way to use the strips. Now, here's another tip, because as you're doing this, you know, when I want to do the next strips on the other side, I've got once again all this waste out here, and so I tend to just like to trim that off a bit, because I do not want all of that extra out there when I'm trying to sew the next units. So I'm okay with a little piece of it, but I will, you know, cut those off. Now I had more of this. It was actually the backing for the quilt on my wall back there on the design wall, and this was too wide. You know, I didn't want I don't want a whole thing. Like if I put this on there, it's going to be the whole unit will be pink. I want the pink and then the paisley. So what I had to do was cut a chunk of this and cut it in half. That way I can do what I need to do. And now when I'm sewing this, I will take it, and to be sure that I'm hitting on the seam allowance, I'm not going too short, I put a pin. So there you can see the pin, so I know that when I flip it, I have enough. There you go, and see, I can see up here that I have enough for the paisley, and that'll make this really cute pink frame around it. And I think that would be a great way to use up some of the little skinnier strips for these square and a square blocks. I mean, you could even put in the middle, you could put, you know, like this could be the middle of it because it's too big now, but you could do the middle as some pieces you sew together, and you just keep building on it. Fun, 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 fun. So I'm going to build this block out too. I think it will be cute to see one with all of the strips in my spare time. Now, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put it in the cart here, so that, you know, I might just use it for this. I might get another package of these actually, because I really like this tiny little size. I forget how many come in here, 42. So you get 42 in one of these little packages, but they are fantastic. So I thought also I'd show you, like when you get ready to tear the paper off, there are many ways to tear the paper off. Many, 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 many ways. People will tell you. But I'm going to tell you what I do usually first to see how it's going to work is I just bend it and I crease it. And then once I crease it, it just comes apart. See? I'm not going to pull the whole thing because I actually need that edge for trimming it. You know, that's my template. So I won't really take the paper off until the whole block is done. Okay. Now I wanted to show you what was on my design wall a little bit closer, because we didn't get to do that. I just sort of told you about it. I didn't show you the quilt that closely. So, and it is chilly here. Chilly for May. What is this? You know, like I need the weather to be a little nicer. Please, May, please. So I want to show you, because I have a couple of blocks in here. This is my Heather Ross fabric that I collected years ago, but I have a few crumb blocks. Do you see there? So some are pieced blocks, and there's one crumb block, and I guess I was just sewing up the crumbs from this because it was so precious, this fabric. When it first came out, it was like it was sold out and, you know, everybody was craving it. But I also have these great bubbles. Look, Cindy quilted all these fabulous bubbles in there, which I think are just fabulous. And did I say that already, fabulous? I think I did. I like them because it's mermaids and watery and fish. And so bubbles is just perfect. Okay, let me see if I can get this to stay up there. Without putting some hooks. Here we go. Put some hooks, pins. Okay, we got this to stay up. I really want to get that binding on him, but he has to wait. The book stuff has to be next. All right, let me show you my irises. I'm going to show you a couple pictures. I don't have a ton of them, but these are in the front and they get good light. And then I actually have a few on the side of the house. But I have these gorgeous russet colored ones that are copper. They're like copper color ones. And a few white and the purples. So I think for in the fall, I'm going to get a few more irises and do sort of a cutting bed on the end of the house somewhere. I have good shielded, right on the other side of this design wall. I mean the house wall, right on the other side of the house. So this room sticks out from the house. It's the way it was built. And so right on the other side, I have, it's a bit shielded because the garage is an L because the garage is that way. And there are some over there too. And that tends to be a really nice area for keeping them if I want to just cut them because I really can't see them from any place unless I go outside. So it's a kind of it's my cutting garden. All right, and I have a little snack chat because my dad's wife went on a business trip. She was running an event which got to be done in person. So she was able to go down to Alabama and she brought us back moon pies, which she does every time she goes to Alabama. And on the back we saw that it says, microwave for this out-of-the-world dessert, microwave it. Who knew? I did not grow up with moon pies. Did you grow up with them? Neither Greg or I grew up with them. And so we did not know about microwaving them. So we did that yesterday and tested the other one. You know, we had to test it for you to be sure it was like, okay. So they're actually pretty good warmed up. The marshmallow gets fairly soft and you have to use a fork to eat it because the chocolate is melted. But it was pretty tasty warmed up, so. And speaking of food, I have a group called Kitchen Adventures, and it's interesting because I'm in some beta testing groups for Facebook because I have such a large community, an active and wonderful community. They asked me to be in some groups with admins of large communities, owners of large communities. And so on my smaller community of the Kitchen Adventures, I have switched it over to what is called a new public format. And the new public format should be able, for those of you who are not on Facebook, to be able to go and see what's going on in there. We talk about what we're eating or making, rather, you know, what we're cooking, asking for suggestions, asking for ideas, sharing recipes that we like. I mean, it's not a super active group, but the people who are there, it's a lot of fun. It's about, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 people. So we have a really good time. But if you are interested in looking for new recipes and you're not on Facebook, give it a try and see if you can. I can't tell because I, of course, am on there. But if you are not on there, go down to the link is down below and peek around and see if you can see things, see if you can comment, because you might be able to comment. I'll have to approve you to comment, but go ahead and give it a try. And I want to say Happy Mother's Day before I wrap up here on Saturday. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. I am not a mom, as many of you know. We don't have any children, but of course I have a mom, and I'm lucky I still have my mom, and I'll be talking to her on Sunday. She lives in Montana, and I live in Virginia, in case you are new here and didn't know that. Whatever your status is, I just hope that you have a beautiful day tomorrow and do a little sewing for yourself. Alrighty? Thank you, my friend, for being here. I love you. Mwah. See you online.